The first step in tie-dyeing our shirts is we're going to label them with a permanent marker. You need to label it on the line that's the thickest part of the collar so that you can identify your shirt when you go to pull it out of the soak that we'll be using in a minute. The next step is we're going to tie the shirt. To tie the shirt, since the shirts will have a decoration or something that you're going to want on the center of the shirt, you're going to grab it from the centermost point of your design or your label. Pick the shirt up, we're doing a bullseye design, and you're going to tie 4 to 5 rubber bands down the shirt, depending on the size of the shirt. Get the rubber bands as tight as you can. When you're done tying your item, please put on some gloves and you're going to place it in the soak for 10 to 15 minutes. Use your spoon or the wooden spoons provided to make sure that the item is fully submerged. You can place a bunch of items onto this just to kind of get them in there, but make sure they're soaked and wet. The next step after letting it soak is to remove the item and squeeze the excess moisture off it into the bucket. Get as much as you can off. Do not untie, just squeeze the excess moisture off. The bucket you'll be using will be a lot larger than this one, so make sure you find your item. I looked for my item with the initials that I was looking for. You could just squeeze a bunch out and start sorting them that way, but again, try to be specific as you can with the name on them. The next step is we're going to dye the item. I've laid it in my sink to make it easier. You're going to lay it on the grass, preferably in a spot that hadn't been used by somebody else in the past. When you put your item down, you're going to dye it there and then move it. You're not going to keep moving it across the grass. Otherwise you'll get dyes in different areas that you may not want. We're using 2 dyes. We're using a red and we're using a gray. We're going to start with the red. We're going to go every other spot between the rubber band. We're going to do the other side. We're going to just use a little bit of dye and squeeze it in each time. Okay, so we start on the end, carefully turn it over, give it a little dot or two. Some may get on the grass or in other spots. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Pause it. Alright, so we're putting the dye on, and with our other hand, we're going to squeeze the dye in. You really do not need a lot of dye. This dye is very strong and will go a long way. Continue to do every other area red, and then we're going to flip it over. Once you have the red done for every other row between the rubber bands, you're going to flip it over and do the other side. You want to try and see as little white in that area as possible, because when you unwrap the shirt, you're going to see a lot more. Okay, so continue to do that with the red in each section that you did, just on the opposite side. And then we're going to do the exact same things with the gray. You're going to then do the same thing with the gray. You're going to fill in the center area, both areas that you haven't done yet that are the white. Squeeze it in on each one, and then you're going to roll it and do the opposite side. Once you finish dyeing it, you're going to place the item in a plastic bag or wrap it in saran wrap and let it sit for 6 to 24 hours. The longer the better. The at-home instructions. Once you get your item home and let it sit for 6 to 24 hours, place it in a sink that it's not going to get stained or ruined, or out on the grass. A little chilly for that right now. I use my utility sink or a sink that can be cleaned. With some cleanser you will get the color out, but I don't want to make extra work. Turn the water to cold and start running and squeezing with gloves on again until the water is going to run clear. Once the water runs clear under cold, you're going to switch it to hot and rinse it again until the water runs clear. At that point, you'll remove the rubber bands, but we're not at that point yet. The next step is to remove the rubber bands. The easiest way to do this is with scissors. However, be very careful not to puncture or cut your shirt. When you try and pull them off, it gets a little bit harder to remove them. so it's much easier to do them with scissors. Once you remove the rubber bands, you're going to open your shirt and you're going to rinse it the same way from cold to hot, cold to hot. So just rinsing cold until it runs clear, hot until it runs clear. Once you've done that, your shirt will look pretty bright. However, you're going to wash it. It will fade a tiny, tiny bit. Put it in your washer, wash it on the hottest temperature for that fabric. So this is going to be cotton. I'm going to wash it on a hot cold to make sure I get as much color. Serious recommendation is that you wash it by itself or with other items that are the same. That way you don't have to worry about it running onto other fabrics. Once you've done that once or twice, I wash it with all my regular clothes, my darks especially, and it's perfectly fine.